just for a moment, I'd like you to imagine it's 2017. It's the end of the current business plan period. And not only has the business plan been met, but it's been completely exceeded. Imagine the headlines of the local and national papers declaring that Wiltshire Council is one of the best employers in the UK. The recent staff survey has come back and has indicated employee engagement figures of 95%, and the communities of Wiltshire are considered to be the strongest and most resilient ever known. Now, I know this might take some imagination, but this could be reality. And I think the crucial part of this is to ensure that we create an agile workforce that is able to deliver the best for the communities of Wiltshire. I think the challenge lies in ensuring that the behaviours and attitudes of all employers and managers enables everybody to adapt quickly to change. I think we need to recruit the right skills, knowledge, behaviours and attitudes to ensure that the workforce is as agile as it can possibly be. I've identified 3 actions that I believe should be implemented to improve the agility of the workforce. And these all need to be implemented and introduced together and all complement each other and need to be introduced at the same time to really make a difference. The first of these actions is to recruit the right behaviours and attitudes. A behaviours framework was launched in 2012, and it's crucial that recruits are assessed against these behaviours, and one way of doing this is that I'd recommend that a self-selection questionnaire is introduced. This would consist of a series of questions. Each question would consist of a series of statements. The applicant would have to choose from the statements, and then as they answer the questions, they'd be given feedback on the behaviours, and they'd be able to make an analysis of themselves. They'd be able to have a think and reflect about whether the behaviours that they possess would make a good cultural fit for the council. This would cost approximately £10,000 to introduce, with a turnover level during the 2013 calendar year of 20.6%, 8.3% of which was voluntary, and with 295 new starters during 2013. And I think if we can recruit the right people, then a much more agile workforce can be created. We've also looked at other options, such as a situational judgment test or an occupational personality questionnaire. These options are a lot more expensive, and I think more investigation will be needed into their return on investment. And the second action I believe we need to take is to change the employee proposition. Traditionally, the priority has been to recruit the candidate that most closely fits the requirements of a specific service area. I think we need to stop thinking about the council as specific positions in specific service areas. We need to start thinking of the council as a whole. And this fits in with the business plan of creating stronger and more resilient communities. And we need to think of the council as a whole in mind. We'll be introducing job family modelling soon. This will enable recruits to be recruited to a particular level with a view that they can move easily within the council rather than recruiting to a specific position. And the third action we need to take is to ensure that HR policies and procedures always support agile working. Traditionally, HR policies and procedures can be quite inflexible and risk averse. We need to make sure that these never provide a barrier to agile working. We have introduced some new policies such as a flexi-time policy, and core hours have been abolished, which all helps with flexible working practices. And possibly some policies need to be reviewed, and we need to make sure that they are always as flexible as possible. Wiltshire Council is a fairly member-led organisation. We need to make sure we get all the members on side to make sure the policies are always as flexible as they can be. To conclude, I think employees should expect to be moved a number of times during their career. I think managers need to be proactive in seeking employees in different areas of the council that could possibly move to their area to fill vacancies. I think managers also need to be receptive to other managers coming along and requesting for their staff to be moved to areas where there might be gaps. So we need to recruit the right behaviour and attitudes. We need to change the employee proposition. And we to ensure HR policies and procedures are as agile as they possibly can be. Since 2009, Wiltshire Council has made 1,108 redundancies. This has created a one-off cost to the Council of £20.03 million. This averages out at over £18,000 per redundancy that's made, as not including pension costs. The three actions I've identified should cost little more than £10,000 to implement, plus labour costs. So the cost would be met, and I believe these would be worthwhile if only one redundancy could be prevented by moving that employee from one service area to a different service area and preventing a redundancy and the recruitment of a new person. Now, in order to achieve the imaginary and pretty much excellent feedback that I described at the beginning, and to improve the services for the people of Wiltshire, then I recommend that all three of the actions that I've identified are implemented together and should really create a brilliant future for Wiltshire. Thank you.
Wow, what a difference from yesterday. The level in your confidence of presenting was astonishing, from sort of how you spoke and your body language, and so that is excellent to see such a big difference. I just wanted to give you that feedback that there was a vast difference. Got two questions and then I'll pass over to Rabs. In terms of the self-selection questionnaire, is there any possibility candidates can predict what the answer Wiltshire are looking for? So actually, is there a risk of you not getting the person with the right attitude, you're getting the person who's able to predict what attitude Wiltshire are looking for?
Yeah, absolutely. They might be able to predict the answers they're looking for. That's probably the case for any organisations that would use a similar test. But it's in the interest of the candidate to be honest with the answers that they give. It's in both the candidate's interest and the council's interest that they are as honest as possible. And then they can, but at least it's given them the chance to reflect on whether they would enjoy working for the council, whether they'd make a good cultural fit with the council. So it's not in their interest, I don't think, to lie and predict the desired behaviours. But obviously that's always a factor to think about.
And secondly, and this links to some of the other presentations we've had, in terms of the practical implications, how are employees rotated and what's your role within that?
Yeah, I think possibly some work could be done, maybe to centralise everybody's qualifications, skills that they possess. So if there's a central area that managers could go to, they can look through and say, well, this person's got this qualification, or this person is particularly good with analytical skills, maybe then they could maybe be used in a different area. So for example, a communications officer might be able to apply their skills to all different areas of the council. So it's important that their skills and knowledge are known, so maybe their skills need to be centralised, so it's more easy for managers to see which skills they possess.
I really liked your start, the story, imagine we are in 2017. I think we'd all love that, wouldn't we? 95% employee engagement scores, it'd be like being in a different universe. So that was really strong and really kind of, okay, so how are you going to get me there? I liked your use of 1, 2, 3, and you kept on referring back to the 3 points as well. What I liked as well is that you also understood that there was political implications in this. So if you're talking about values and how you move people around, maybe to mitigate some of those redundancy costs, but a politician would say, if we can just save one redundancy or one child going into care, or if I don't have to close a children's home, that sort of presentation of the idea with the return on investment would really land with all different audiences. So the fact that you thought about that and then presented it in a very practical way, I thought was really good that you'd taken me thinking that far. And you also knew stats off by heart as well. And I know you had some stuff written on your page, but you didn't sort of hold it up in front of you and read it. Just had it there as your security blanket. So, so well done. I think that was a really good presentation. Well done,
Adam, I thought it was simple, and I mean that with the greatest, as the greatest of compliments. I think it was simple, and I think it was implementable. I suppose I have a slight question, and I completely agree with the aspiration for this council as a whole recruitment. Your second idea, I think that's really interesting. But how do you actually do it? What specific 2 or 3 changes, or even one change, if you think there is something overall, do you think that you need to make as an organisation to say, I'm not recruiting you to do that job, I'm recruiting you to work for this great organisation?
Yeah, well, it's a difficult question to answer. It's really about changing the culture. That's a very difficult thing to do. I think if we recruit the right managers, make sure that they possess the right behaviours, and make sure they're thinking about the council as a whole at the recruitment stage, and the new managers will be able to think that way. They'll be thinking about the council as a whole rather than the side of the linear thinking. So we need to make sure the right people are in post that are able to think like that. But I think this is probably the part of my business case that is probably going to take the longest. The changing in culture that is going to be difficult. I think the leadership needs to come from the top leadership as well. The way they communicate with the rest of the council, they need to be thinking about all service areas, not just the service areas that they look after. So if the leadership can come from the top and filter down through, then I think it'll begin to make a change. But as I say, it will take time to really create that culture change.
Yeah, exactly like Nick. I mean, I said this yesterday, didn't I? I thought this is, and the beauty of this is its simplicity. I don't think it's over ambitious if you do it one person at a time. I do think it has vision though, and lots of councils will say, well, we already do this. But I think the reality is actually saying, we want to have 95% engagement, we want to, having that vision and saying how you do it. So I liked it for that reason. I thought your presentation, as Ali said, is vastly improved from yesterday in terms of your level of confidence. I think to deliver this on the ground, you're going to have to be tenacious to make this happen. But I'm going to ask you, one question I'm going to ask you is, if your organisation said, yeah, okay, right, Adam, go for it, do this, what's the first thing you're going to do?
I think the first thing that needs to be done would be to introduce a self-selection questionnaire. So it would cost about £10,000 to implement, so it's not a massive cost, and you can show that the savings would be made by reducing the number of redundancies which need to be made across the council. So what's been happening is redundancies have been made, and then new starters will come in, and that doesn't need to happen if someone can just be transferred from one service area to another. So I think that's the first thing we need to do, make sure that the new people coming into the council have the right ideas, behaviours and attitudes coming in, and then I think that will continue to spread across the council. So that would be the first thing I do to introduce the questionnaire.
Thank you.
Well done.